Klubine's time at Road Atlanta showed he's going to be a tough one to beat. A pair of firsts and a second is a near perfect first round. But as we saw, this car lends itself to unpredictable races, and a track like Knockhill just adds to that factor. Will anyone be able to run away from the chaos? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch round 2 of the BiS F1600 Championship, and you'll see it live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is IMSA driver Joey Atterbury. Behind the scenes is our director Daniel Costello, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. If you haven't heard of Knockhill, you're in for quite a bit of fun. Let's introduce you with our track guide. Welcome to Knockhill Racing Circuit. Opened in 1974, this place has become perhaps the most famous of Scottish racetracks. It sits a little less than an hour north of Edinburgh, and while the stats may make it seem extremely short, it packs a lot of punch within a lap. The four main layouts have a mere 2 kilometers, or just over 1 mile in length, and a measly 9 to 10 corners. But no two of those turns are alike, and there's an impressive 120 feet of elevation change. Also, a majority of the apexes are taken at medium to high speeds. That makes passing rather tough, but the hairpin at Taylor's is the most likely spot to outbrake someone. Otherwise, you'll just have to wait for a mistake from your rival. Perhaps the aspect that is most unique here is that the circuit can be run clockwise or counterclockwise. Naturally, this changes the nature of some of the corners, but a few things are the same no matter which way you run it. Duffus Dip is a sketchy one in which it can be hard to judge how fast you can take it. And the chicane, which has become notorious for the way touring cars blast over its curbs, requires incredible commitment from the driver and stability in your setup. Speaking of which, expect to set up your car to have to handle the aggressive curves that guard the insides of pretty much every turn. Knockhill has been long requested by the plentiful Scottish racing fans, and with its arrival in the sim, it's sure to garner even more fans around the world now. Well, Joey, we've recently seen this track raced with British touring cars, but this is going to be another fitting combination for this place, I think.
I totally agree. I'm really excited for this one. Knockhill Racing Circuit, a quick, fast lap around this place. 9 turns, about 1.25 miles is all it takes to get around this place. But some highlights. Turn 1, Duffus Dip down there. Maybe an opportunity for me to mispronounce it later today, but you're going to see cars launching themselves over the curbs and down into the turn 1, 2, 3 complex. Also, bouncing up towards the chicane and then probably into the final hairpin, your biggest and best passing opportunity. Can't wait to see these little cars really ring it out around this place.
No doubt. Just about the right size and the right amount of power to make this a ton of fun, no doubt. But as we mentioned, we've already had one round of the championship, but each round includes 3 races. So why don't we take a look and see what the points are after that? And no surprise, having 2 wins in a second, Klubine is leading the way, but it's only by a single point over Bazugli. He's holding his own back there, then 3 points down to finish out the top 3 with Joseph Yang. Unfortunately, I don't see any of those 3 here tonight, so we're going to have things swap around a little bit. For Vian is here. This is a good chance for him to jump up the order, maybe lead the points after this one. We'll keep an eye on that, but they also do a teams championship. Why don't we take a glance there, Joey?
Yeah, right now, Gladiator Road Racing, pretty dominating performance from that first round there. Road Atlanta stands on top. And you see here Britain West Motorsports, but then it tightens up here. Lima Racing, Jaffman's Garage, Intrace Britannia iSports, and even
And so, with this being the second round, we might have some people who didn't get to tune in on the first one. So, why don't we take a glance at what this second race has in store for us? Just like the first one, it is 3 sprint races that they're going to be running at 15 minutes each traditionally. But for this one, they've limited it by laps as well. So, expect it to be only 15 laps instead, since they have sub 1 minute laps around here. Now, the key thing is that the top 10 are going to be inverted for race number 3. With as few drivers as we have, those who are finishing way towards the back are going to essentially be up on the pole, except for maybe one driver if we have all 11 of them line up. Each race sees no spare car and a drive-through penalty at 12 incidents and a DQ at 17. Unfortunately, with as tight as the running is here, we could see them run out of those incident limits at a track like this. So this should be fun to watch, but hopefully we won't see anybody disappear throughout it. Right now in the qualifying session, with what looks to be, I think about 6 minutes left to go, Negovin has got our provisional pole, but only by 300ths over Keenan Harris. So this is looking very tight out here, Joey.
Well, not only that, but I'm noticing the entire top 7, Joe, within about 0.8 of a second. So right, the heart of the field is stacked close together. That's exactly what we want to see, especially given such a short lap around this place.
And at a track kind of notorious for being cold and windy and rainy, it obviously we don't have rain in iRacing yet, #soon, but it's a very hot track at over 106 Fahrenheit currently on the surface. So that's going to cause them to slip around even more. In fact, I was wondering if we could bring in a special guest we have, Mike Broomhead, one of the league organizers, going to be joining us here for the pre-race to talk a little bit about this car. Mike, what is it like in these hotter conditions? Does it tend to slip around a lot?
It's a little bit hot, and you really start to feel that towards the middle and then towards the end of the race as well. It gets a little bit slippery, and you have to move that weight jacker a little bit just to keep hold of it.
And these things do look like a lot of fun, and getting to race them in iRacing has been a joy since they've added it. But they do look very, very small. They kind of feel like a bit of a go-kart on steroids. What's it like inside the car? Is it does it feel pretty vulnerable, or do you feel pretty safe in modern versions of these things?
Yeah, I would say, yeah, you still feel vulnerable. You go from karting, which has immense grip, and then suddenly you're slipping all over the place and trying to just, four-wheel drift it around a lot of the corners. And you'll see these guys do that especially as they crest turn 1 there. It's always on edge, and that's what makes these things fun. And especially you can get in the draft and really tuck up. So it's not down to aero, it's pure grip and getting that slide in.
Well, Mike, I want to jump in here and ask you, because I know that we're seeing a little bit of a thinner field than what we saw at Road Atlanta, but you were telling us that some real-world testing is going on, and some of those guys might be out there driving their real Formula Fords.
Yeah, we're right at the beginning of the Canadian Formula Ford season. The snow's melted, the sun's come out, so people are testing their cars and they're getting ready to go probably late May into June. And we're missing a few guys, but it's for good reason. They're driving the real thing, and who wouldn't want to, right? So we're here. We're going to have some fun. There's 11 guys, but it's not going to be any less of a show. Look at the close times out there.
Oh, yeah, and I want to talk about how fun these are to drive, because you yourself, have got plenty of experience in these Formula Fords, and a racetrack like Knockhill, you ever dreamed of going to a place and jumping this chassis over these curbs?
Oh yeah, I've dreamed of it. I've done it accidentally at a few corners in my experience, but I did Montreal a while back now, and they had some high curbs, and you could really fly over those. But Knockhill and any sort of similar sort of track where maybe it's a little older, maybe it's stood the test of time, it would be so much fun around here. I wish I got the opportunity at some point. Maybe I will in the future, who knows?
Well, and last thing I got for you here, because there's always, the familiar faces, the new faces, the young guns out there. And if you were to pick somebody here in the series, I know you can't play favorites, but who have you got your eye on maybe up and coming here?
Well, I think Stuart Ross, he showed he's under Gord Ross, I think, in the broadcast there, but he showed he's got some serious pace. He's coming through the field. As long as he keeps it together, he should be pretty good. But you got Keenan Harris out there right now, leading the way. We shared a seat at one point, and obviously Connor Klubine, who's not here tonight, but yeah, Connor's fast, and there's quite a few fast people in here, and they'll, once people get to grips with the car, it will just be so close. They've already shown it's close racing. A lot of excitement, so it could go any way, really.
Speaking of going any way, 1,000th improvement there for Keenan Harris as he improves the pole position, I should say, over Nigovin, but not by a lot. They're still trying to wring everything they can out of it. You mentioned some of the real drivers getting in here and competing as there is Keenan Harris having a bit of a correction moment there up over Clark. Has anybody mentioned that getting to drive it in the sim has helped them at all? Has it had any effect on them practicing?
I'd imagine so. I haven't heard anybody mention it specifically. It's a relatively new car, but there's a reason why all these guys are interested and why they're here. Because suddenly they're racing the car that they race all the time, but they get way more practice laps than they would normally in the real world. So I think there is a relation to it, and I don't think driving in the sim can do anything wrong. It's not a bad thing to get into the sim and try to improve your craft. So I think it's going to help out a lot of guys, and it's certainly something that is a tool for the pros as well, right? So it shows.
Now, kind of on that topic, Micah, I see a lot of real-world racers using the sim to basically do laps when they can't do it in winter time or times when it's not so good weather out there. And now we're actually seeing these entry levels like the Formula Fords. Guys hop straight out of the go-karts and into these Formula Fords. Have you noticed that the sim is helping that transition at all?
Oh, for sure. Actually, there's with the radical side of things as well, like you see a lot of guys coming out of basically go-karts and then jumping into cars, and suddenly they're already on pace. I mean, yeah, there's talent there, but it does take some experience and some knowledge of how the car works. And I think a lot of people are finding that from in the sim, because you get to set up the car, you get to feel everything, as long as you have the right equipment, of course. But yeah, it's so closely related. And when I drive a car that I've driven before in real life, and it feels exactly the same, it takes me back or whatever it may be. It certainly shows that what iRacing are doing is making incredibly realistic simulation cars and allowing people to have some fun and race these things.
Well, thanks for coming and talking to us. It's always really cool to see how the sim and the real world are connecting and giving us this very cool insight. It's been a lot of fun, Mike. Hopefully we'll get to chat with you more.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for having me on, and hopefully we'll have a bigger field, and if anybody wants to come and join, come and have some fun with us.
Absolutely. So that was Mike Broomhead, one of the league organizers here for the BiS F1600 Championship. Before we finish up qualifying, real quick, we have a new pit reporter joining us today. We have Daniel Zippy Salmon down on pit lane to show us things, and you have another unique perspective. You got to race against a lot of these guys. How do you think the transition is going to fare between the two different cars?
Well, they're totally different cars to drive, like so much different. So the Radical, I find, like you're really on the edge, everything's dialed up a notch. But when you get into the formulas, you can still drive it on the edge. It's just like the line, instead of being like maybe half an inch thin, you got a foot, maybe a foot and a half, and you can really dance with it. So they're a lot of fun, especially you're really going to have to watch the curbs around here because it will unsettle the car. But for sure, have a good time. Have a good time.
All right, here is our starting grid. 11 cars lining up with Harris on the pole, Nigovin in second, and Stuart Ross starting P3. Vervayan will start from fourth, followed by Loban in fifth. And it's John Benwillet in sixth, Jonathan Brooks in seventh, and Keith Loban in eighth. After that, Dave O'Brien starts ninth, Cedric Ohai in 10th, and Shane Vickery will be the last of them. And their finishing order for this one will determine their starting positions for the second race as the engines start to rev and the green flag is out. They're on their way down to Duffus Dip for the first time. Harris, not the greatest of starts off the line, and Nigovin coming around the outside. What's it going to be into this first corner? He backs out of it, and the top four go single file quickly.
Yeah, Harris in control, Nagovin, and then Stewart Ross there make up your top three. Look at how close Ross is right on the back of the number 10 car, up through the chicane for the first time, bouncing over those curves.
All right, so we made it through the first couple corners without anybody having a major off. What about the rest of this lap? Couple of them kicking up the dirt, coming over Clark, and now they head down the railway straight. Nagovin looking very close to the back of Harris there. Not going to elect to make a move at this stage. Harris going a little deep and leaves the door open. Now he's going to be slow off the final turn.
And here comes Ross as well. We're going to go 3 wide down the front straightaway to complete lap number 1. All for the lead. Who's going to go into turn 1 the deepest? I have a feeling it's going to be between Nagovin and Ross. And here we go. 2 wide. Duff is Dip, Nagovin hanging on tough.
Good respect between them. They came very close but didn't touch. They're still very tight here down through Butchers, and somehow they get it sorted out. But Ross taking advantage of the situation to great effect behind them. Another bobble for Vian. That's going to open the door for the green number 12 of Loban to be able to jump through. So Graham moves into 4th.
And that stacked everything up. Look at this. We got 3 cars, and then we got a train of 4. This is pretty much the whole field on one screen right here, headed into the hairpin to complete lap number 2. And Joe, that hairpin, I think, is going to be a talking point of late braking moves all night long.
Yeah, no doubt about that as we fly along the front stretch once again. See a little bit of a side-by-side battle between Jonathan Brooks and John Benwillid, but up at the very front, top 3 separated by barely 0.2 of a second.
Here comes Keenan Harris trying to look. Oh no, looks like we got Shane Vickery with a problem going down Duff's Dip, as well as Jonathan Brooks now, kind of playing a little bit of copycat.
Yeah, it looks like both of them going off through Duffus Dip there, but they get the cars going. We got some information from Zippy. Let's head down to our pit reporter.
I'm just thinking we're really going to see that as you're going down the race, the packs are going to separate, and you really want to try and stay on the guy ahead of you, because otherwise they're just going to get away and they're just going to be gone. So really want to try and focus on your exits and keep on the guy in front of you.
That's a good point. It makes me wonder, too, as we now watch those top 3 still fighting for the lead here, Joey, how important it's going to be to settle this out sooner rather than later, because they could lose touch with these top 3 if they settle down.
Well, and we talk about settle, but remember, these are only 15-lap races out here, less than 15 minutes in length, and I love that shot right there. Show you how aggressive they're being every lap to jump over these curves, but Joe, you got to remember, if you sit back and be patient too long, you might actually lose touch, which is what Zippy was saying you don't want to do.
Absolutely. So watching Harris, our pole sitter, follow both Ross and Nagovin down through the final turn and onto the main straight once again. That looked like a pretty good exit now. How much is the slipstream going to help? It's not that long of a straight.
I've seen Keenan Harris get a really good run out of the hairpin the last couple laps in a row, and you see, oh no, that's problems with Nagovin down Duffus Dip. Deja vu from a lap ago.
Oh, and he's doing the right thing. He waits before he gets back onto the track. Great heads up by the 10. Didn't want to ruin anybody else's race, but that cost him a lot of time. He's now 8 seconds behind the lead, and that's spread apart first and second place as well for the first time all race.
Yeah, but look at what this has done. Shane Vickery, remember, this is one of the cars that spun. Now he's right behind Dave O'Brien, that's blocked up with Keith Lobbin, and also Nagovin at the front of this train.
In fact, a little bit of a defense there from Jonathan Brooks. O'Brien not going to cover the inside quick enough, so Vickery now moving down. In fact, he's going to split the middle as that's an early break from Jonathan Brooks and too late of a braking for Dave O'Brien, who goes way out of Taylor's. And so Vickery is going to essentially get 2 spots.
The hairpin, Joe, it's a talking point. You can late apex it, you can early apex, you can show a nose. There's lots of different ways to approach it, but like Zippy was saying earlier, I still think the key is that exit, getting the power down properly coming out.
And back up to Stuart Ross, about a second ahead of Keenan Harris. The laps go by fast here. We're already about halfway through this thing into lap 6. Can Keenan try and charge back forward and catch him? in these remaining laps, especially now that they don't have a third party to interrupt. Looks like Graham and the 12 behind them also trying to keep touch. Back to Vickery now, who is trying to see if he can do anything to Keith Lobbin in that number 42, who once again goes a little wide and tries to square off the exit, and it doesn't work.
Oh, and here he comes. Shane Vickery right tucked up in the toe, and now he moves out driver's right. Is he going to be far enough along going into turn one? Yes, he is. Now he's got to get it slowed down. We've seen so many problems down through Duffus Dip, but Shane Vickery, nice overtake.
Good stuff. So that is up 4 positions. Our hardest charger in this race for the number 27. Didn't qualify all that well, but is looking like he is going to put a good one in for the first race out of 3. Watch him through Clark's up and over that blind crest, and you need a good exit down Railway Straight. Doesn't look like Keith has much of an answer here.
Oh, but the hairpin, we're going to see what happens here, and not quite close enough, like you were saying. It looks like Shane might have a little bit more pace inside the race car right now, and jumping back up, look at Keenan Harris really wagging the tail of that Formula 4.
Keenan was half a second a lap faster than Ross last time by, so that was a huge jump up for him. Looks like there is something in it, although that could have been an off lap for Ross. No, that was regular pace. That's just Keenan turning the wick up, and it is paying big dividends here.
Well, and I think here what you're missing, Joe, I shouldn't say missing, but that last lap didn't necessarily register. So it looks like Keenan probably jumped some curbs, got some extra lap time, but look at what it's done. Now he's officially in the tow and fighting for the lead.
Here he goes, takes a little bit of a look and then dives back into the lane and then switches back down as they come out of the second part of Duffus Dip, trying to open up the entry to McIntyre, the two of them. He is right on top of him. Passing can sometimes be a little bit of a tough maneuver here, Joey. If you're in that number 18, are you waiting for the braking for Taylor's?
I think you go put the pressure on, and if the move happens, then do it. Then take it when the door is right there. And looking back at it right now, Keenan Harris trying to get it done, but Stuart Ross full defensive into the hairpin, making Harris go the long way around. And check this out, it's going to be a drag race down the front straightaway now.
Great exit for Keenan. He has got a little bit of a nose ahead at the line. 7 laps to go. Make that 6 now as they cross. But he's a little bit slower once they get to the braking around the outside. Can't get the job done. It switches back briefly. And there goes Ross back up to P1. Fascinating battle between these two. It's not going to be a slam dunk.
Great racing between both the number 63 and the number 18. You notice, and here's Keenan taking another look. I don't think that's the best passing opportunity for him, but I was just going to say, just great sportsmanship between the two racers, leaving each other room on the racetrack.
I mean, color me impressed. We've seen some really close racing for a few drivers here today, and good respect shown as we're seeing a little bit of an overtake farther back. Nagovin and his charge back forward is going to get ahead of Ben Willid, so that's P5 for the number 10. Still a pretty sad result compared to what he showed in qualifying.
And jumping back up, Joe, this is still that lead side by side into Duffus Dip one more time. Keenan Harris not quite as far alongside this lap, but I really feel it's just going to be like a moment in time that Stuart Ross maybe makes a mistake. That's going to open the door for Keenan Harris.
No doubt, and clearly he's quick, because that's twice now he's been on the attack down into turn 1. That's exactly where you want to be strong here. This looks pretty good coming out of Clark. I think maybe Ross went a little bit wide there. He covers the inside yet again. That's going to be a little slow, very deep into the corner, trying to go the long way around. And as they gas it up, he is going to be fully ahead, I think, this time.
Really great job. This move he did just a couple laps ago, but watch out for Stuart Ross. He's now using the slipstream. Is he going to send it here to turn 1? Yes, he does. Late on the brakes, big wiggle through Duffus Dip, but hangs on to it.
Whoa, and a moment for Keenan having to really gather it back up there, coming down into McIntyre, but he keeps from spinning it around. And it looks like Zippy's noticed something really interesting in the way the dynamic of this battle has been going on.
Yeah, I'm seeing it, and I'm wondering, is Keenan actually faster, or is it the boost that is pulling him along? We'll see if they switch positions again.
Yeah, that's a good point. I wonder if that slipstream is what's making him this much quicker now that he caught him. We'll find out soon enough if he's able to make another pass. He's not quite as far alongside this time. And look at Ross. He goes down to the inside as far as he can go, almost as quick as he can, to make sure that Harris doesn't get that apex.
And here we go. Is Harris going to push the issue? Yes, he's trying. Almost goes 4 wheels off here in Duffus Dip. And I liked what I saw out of Keenan Harris that last time. He's made 2 moves around the outside of the hairpin that have net resulted 0. He hasn't made a pass, and so he tried something different this time, and he's going to have to try something different again. But Joe, Stephen Vervayan, 3rd place back there, Graham Lobbin, both of these cars are actually turning laps faster than this front pair that's battling.
Bad news for fans of Ngovin in the number 10. He had another spin out of McIntyre. This was on his own. As we're going to watch this fight for the lead coming out of Taylor's. You're right, he's still trying some different things, and he does have a good run, but he's going to run out of track here. Nope, he's going to give him space. He felt like he had that nose in. Ross cannot shut the door this time. Can Harris get it done? He's down to the inside as they enter the corner. No, he's still not there.
And here comes Harris, still showing a nose, but not quite close enough, and just great racing between these front 2 competitors. Not an inch given, but I tell you what, they're not leaning on each other, and 1.5 laps remaining here in the first race.
Absolutely. So as they fly down the railway straight once again, this is a lot closer for Harris. Could he try something different here? Forcing that car down to the inside, try to cut underneath, and he doesn't quite time it right. I think there was a bit of contact.
Maybe, but he lifted off the gas, and now he's going to actually have a little bit of a later run as they take the white flag. Keenan Harris going to driver's left. Is he going to push the issue? No, he's going to file back in behind Stuart Ross. Joe, I feel like a late race hairpin move is coming.
Yeah, all he has to do is be ahead at the line. That's the thing. I wonder if it's worth him trying to maybe make that outside move since he was ahead a couple times. Oh, that was a big catch there.
Yeah, and it's gotta have the run, gotta focus on that corner exit coming out right here. Gets a decent run. Is Harris too far back?
I wonder if he did give it up a little bit there, coming over the chicane, just lost too much time. That could have done him in. Despite the speed that yellow machine is showing, he's not there. Stuart Ross up from 3rd on the grid with a brilliant pass early in the race to take the win in race 1 here today.
Fantastic race. Looks like Stephen Ngovin here gonna come home in the 5th place. And oh no, problems for Graham Lobbin on the last lap.
Not sure how he got into the barrier there on the way into Taylor's. And it looks like, oh, he had clattered it on the way out of Clark, I think. So that was a strange one. That took a long time to happen. Dave O'Brien as well coming across the line. So our results for the first heat sees Stuart Ross taking the win and Keenan Harris finishing in 2nd. Stephen Vervayan will be P3 as John Benwilid was 4th, and Ngovin going backwards, only 5th after starting on the front row. Vickery the opposite direction. He started in 11th, finished 6th. Keith Lobbin in 7th, and Dave O'Brien in 8th. Then it's Graham Lobbin in P9, Cedric O'Hyan in 9th, and I lost my race results there. Yeah, looks like we've got Graham Lobbin in 10th and Jonathan Brooks in 11th. So that actually, unfortunately, I think that takes us to our feature. So I think we've had a sudden shift in how this one's going to operate, because now the drivers are in the warm-up heading to the feature race here, which means we will have that reversed grid. And we'll go over that in just a bit. So maybe a bit of a truncated race on this one, Joey, but fantastic battling there all throughout.
So, Joe, that has been One of the best iRacing races that I've seen in a long time. And trust me, we cover a lot of races out here on GSRC, but man, action from a 3 wide pass for the lead on lap 2, and then it just never ended all the way to the checkered flag.
Exactly. And drivers, of course, getting this little 2-minute warm up before they get going. And around this track, that is enough time to get some practice in. So this should be enough time to get a little bit, but I don't think it'll do a whole lot. Just maybe find some comfort, try some tricks maybe that they thought they found. And Gladiator Road Racing, no doubt, going to be a bit disappointed that they couldn't do more with Nigovan there. He's a teammate of Vervayan and had such a great opportunity, but kind of did that to himself a bit.
I think so, and I think just kind of limiting the early mistakes out there can help some drivers. But Joe, at Knockhill, with such short races out here, I just feel like you got to be pushing 10/10 the entire time. Otherwise, you could potentially lose touch, and I think that's what Stuart Ross did. And I got to give props to that number 63. I did not see a 3-wide move coming so early, and then just fantastic racing awareness. You know, he didn't qualify up front, but he stayed up front once he was there.
All right, so the cars now start to grid, and they are going to be thusly with Graham Lobbin actually on the pole for this one. Cedric O'Hyan will be in second, and Dave O'Brien is going to be in third. Then it's Keith Lobbin in fourth, Shane Vickery fifth, Stephen Nigovan sixth, and John Benwood P7. Stephen Vervayan starts eighth, Keenan Harris in ninth, and Stuart Ross gets regrid in 10th. Poor Jonathan Brooks was the only one that didn't get regrid in that one in 11th. As we are looking for the start here in just a moment, waiting for Jonathan Brooks to get out there, and then we are good to go. As the drivers anxiously awaiting, looks like Brooks is on the grid. So as the engines start to rev, the lights come up here for race number 2, and the green flag is out. Looks like Lobbin is going to get off the line pretty decently, but not so for O'Hyan. He's starting to get swamped by Dave O'Brien down to the inside, and now Shane Vickery is thinking about trying to make a move, but he has to back out of it.
Oh man, and it's busy down through turns 1, 2, and 3, and look at that yellow car all the way down on the inside. That's Keenan Harris trying to make his way up into the top 5 already, trying to go too wide through the chicane.
And behind them, that's going to slow them up just a little bit there. So as Lobbin leads, whoa, and slow off of the corner, and we got cars into the wall in the background. It looks like that is Nigovan and Harris, two of our faster drivers taken out right at the start.
Yeah, Harris finds himself in the wall, but look at this. This is the 63 of Stuart Ross now taking advantage. He's moved himself up into the top 5. Remember, with the grid invert, Stuart Ross started way in the back.
Doing the best he can with what he's got, but Shane Vickery is going to try and beat him to it as he's challenging for third place, and he goes by Cedric O'Hyan with that move. Is in the background going off course. That was Jonathan Brooks with a little bit of a spin down Duffus Dip.
A little bit more action to kick this one off, Joe, and I feel like that's due to the grid invert, the natural progression of having some of these cars faster in the back and trying to get around. I love it. It just produces more racing.
And the Lobbins have switched places. Keith now leads. Graham falls to third. Shane Vickery is going to be able to get by him as Graham's having trouble up there at the front. Now what will we see with Ross? He's going to send it deep down on O'Hyan. Can't get it done. They switch around directions and come back up the hill along the main straight, but it is completely different to what we saw on the last lap.
It is. It's getting shuffled up, and you see, look at that fast lap just being traded throughout the field as these drivers try to sort it out, and Stuart Ross still on a move there. Now he makes a really late move on Cedric O'Hyan. O'Hyan sees him, thankfully, and stays on the track.
Wow, frantic stuff here. This regrid is causing quite the show out here, and it looks like Vervian is now going to have to play defense around the outside of Clark Corner, and Ohio is just dropping position after position. Now he's got Benwilid on him as well as we come back to the lead, and it's going to be almost 3 wide down into Taylor's. In fact, the leader's going to make a little contact as Keith Lobbin goes way to the outside. Stuart Ross says, thank you very much. I've seen this story before. I'm going to get third. How about first next?
Is he lining up another potential 3 wide into turn 1? Oh no, the 2 leaders make contact on the straightaway. Stuart Ross straight to the lead.
Unbelievable that twice in one night, Stuart Ross has passed 2 cars in the same spot to take the lead away under different circumstances, mind you, but Ross has got to be grinning ear to ear on this one.
He is, and now he's looking at nothing but a clean racetrack in front of him, and everything has fallen into place for that number 63.
Wow. So he might sweep this one. Only 2 races tonight, obviously, as opposed to our normal 3. Here comes Vervian, and I think Lobbin doesn't have an answer for him. He manages to slice inside of that orange 42, and that gives him second place.
Yeah, we're going to see if Keith has the pace, or maybe if Steven has the pace to get up there and fight with Stewart. But as we see, purple, fastest lap, Stuart Ross, 52.687. I fear for everybody else that he's going to be gone and into the sunset.
So back to Ohio now, as he's still behind Dave O'Brien. Both of them have lost some positions. Ohio more so, he's down 3. And we are down to, looks like 9 cars left on the track. We've lost Graham Lobbin and Keenan Harris. Well, and who is that off? That is Keith Lobbin.
Yeah, that was our P3 runner, Joe. Keith Lobbin in the number 42 goes heavy off of the track, and I didn't see him make contact, but he loses 2 positions. That promotes Dave O'Brien now up into the final podium spot.
Indeed, so that's going to be great for him, as looks like we've got a few drivers not giving up. I know Zippy's been following Nagovin, who unfortunately looks like he's gone a lap down here. Looks like we may need to come back to Zippy in a little bit. Nagovin, like I said, stuck in the middle, but he is not racing them for position on this one. We're going to take a look at the replay on the start, and this is for car 10. So this is Nagovin and what sent him into the pits to take some quick repairs and be a lap down. So unfortunately here, Zippy, things were kind of, the tone was set essentially from the very first race, it feels like, with Steven.
Yeah, he's not had much luck at the start. Definitely not how you want to do it, but I don't think it's really got him down. He's certainly pushing that car like he's going to take the wheels off it. So he's keen, he's quick, and hopefully he can recover from the race.
Yeah, who knows? The way things are going, maybe attrition could get him another one. In fact, you said he was quick. He's got the fastest lap of the race here, and he just slid through McIntyre going completely sideways. Meanwhile, back to Ohio once again. This is behind Dave O'Brien. We saw this a little bit earlier, and these two have been somewhat glued together. This is the battle for the last step on the podium, Joey.
Yeah, and you mentioned kind of Cedric Ohio's fall a little bit earlier, but he's kind of settled out. He's plateaued right now in the tire tracks of Dave O'Brien, and just about halfway through this one, Joe, I think Cedric is in a good spot. You know, just take out the notepad, take some notes, see where Dave O'Brien is maybe a little bit stronger, maybe where you're a little bit stronger, and then start to apply that pressure.
Absolutely, and he's within range. I think something could happen, especially if we get another problem out of that number 3 machine, although he loses some time there down through McIntyre and Butchers that time. And I think we just had a loss of a couple of positions for Keith Lobbin back there.
Looks like it, and Keith finds himself in the back of this train right here. We mentioned that he was up in 3rd, fell down to 5th, and now it looks like Jonathan Brooks and John Benwilid have made their way around him. And speaking of battles, actually, looks like Jonathan Brooks has John Benwilid firmly in his rearview mirror.
Absolutely. So multiple battles starting to brew here. Brooks is under threat. There you see him in the bright blue and pink machine with the orangish red of John Benwillid. Now coming down the inside, he's going to try and outbrake him into Duffus Dip, and that is a textbook move.
Really fantastic move, just laid on the brakes, hit the apex,
That's
and
O'Brien.
no, Dave O'Brien turned around. Remember, Joe, this was our final podium runner here.
Wow, that is a real shame of a loss there. And I think that was his own doing. I think he just clipped the inside curb of McIntyre a little too much.
Very easy to do, and we've seen drivers when they overstep the limits, you know, the car can go around, but man, just so unfortunate for Dave O'Brien, really having a good run here. But hey, that promotes Cedric O'Hayan back up into third place.
Absolutely. He's putting a lap on. No, actually, he's letting Nigovan by. I keep forgetting that car is not racing with others. We're going to get a replay of the incident down into McIntyre here. Zippy, I mean, how much can these cars take these curbs? They look like they should be able to, but what's the reality?
Or in reality, if you get the curb going through that, the car really does bounce. Honestly, the bravery from some of these drivers with the amount of curb they've been taking, it's definitely a little bit braver than me, but they're really using all the real estate of the track where it's quite a lot of momentum. You got to try and keep in this vehicle. They're definitely trying to capitalize on that.
It certainly shows as we come back to Vickery. And he's another one that's lost a lot of spots. Now he's got O'Brien in front of him, who's already on the back foot, maybe shaken a little bit by that mistake. Going to see if he can just squeeze another position out of that blue and yellow car. But it's going to be a drag race up the main straight.
We've seen this, you know, the outside line around the hairpin is able to put the power down quite nicely, but Shane Vickery now with a little bit more top-end speed, plus the track position advantage of being on the inside, he's going to secure that place down into Duffus Dip nice and smooth. Shane Vickery now up to 7th.
And did O'Hayan just lose third? I think Benwillid just got by.
Oh no, it looks like he went off track coming out of the chicane, Joe. Got out there in the gravel, and you're right, John Benwillid right on by. And look at this, Jonathan Brooks now in this battle.
I guess the one good thing in that is that was his teammate that went by. So at least the team is going to get the points. Brooks has to lift almost, it looks like, as he didn't want to get into the back of O'Hayan.
Yeah, and I think that's the smart thing, right? We don't see any fenders. We don't see any bumpers. And if you have to kill the momentum, you can't get around them. I think that's better to do than potentially tangle the wheels, Joe. And you know how disastrous that can be.
Definitely. A lot of my time in iRacing has been on the open wheelers, and you do not want to get a little bit too close to your competitors. So Brooks up and over. Clark once again can't quite get the exit that Cedric can, and he just starts to pull away that little bit more. Zippy, we were talking a little bit earlier with Mike about drivers making that transition from the radicals here to the Formula Ford. I believe Cedric is one of those.
Yeah, I believe he's got a radical that he drives in real life. Certainly, like I said, it's such a different car, but it's great to see he's continued on to the Formula Fords with us as well.
And he's adapting quite well. Going to get a nice top 5 here today. Maybe not a podium unless he can catch back up to Benwillid. We're already down to 3 laps to go. And I just realized what is on the side of the LNZ racing cars. That's the clean all the things meme from many years ago.
Oh, it is, isn't it? Now that I'm looking at it, now I understand what is going on out there. But look at the run here. Jonathan Brooks actually going to take it side by side with Cedric O'Hayan going into the hairpin. Late race move, hard on the brakes. As long as he gets it slowed down, Jonathan Brooks should have P4, but Joe, looks like Cedric might have a little bit of a draft.
Yeah, I think he's going to come back at him. Let's see what happens. He's given the inside. Brooks does not defend hard enough. He leaves the door open, and early braking from Cedric will give it back up.
Really interesting between the two lines there, Joe. I don't know if you saw, but Jonathan Brooks did not fade back into the racing line. He almost kind of forced Cedric into a very hard pinch into turn 1, and Cedric said, "No thanks, I'm out of here."
Oh, sounds like we've had an incident towards the back, and Zippy's got his eye on it. What happened?
It looks like he just let the car a little bit get away from him, but he was very good in the rejoin. He didn't shoot into the track, so very gentlemanlike racing here in the BIS Formula Fords.
Yeah, almost called it by the old name there, as Vickery is back running in 8th position, and already the white flag is out, and Stuart Ross looking to go back-to-back here in that number 63.
Joe, I'm watching Stuart Ross in this final lap, and he's hanging it all out. One thing that I think is advancing him above the rest is he's just comfortable in this car.
Absolutely. And as he comes down into Taylor's, he didn't start on the pole on either of the races, but he didn't let that stop him. Stuart Ross is going to win both of our races tonight for round 2 of the BiS F1600 Championship. Vervaen gets himself a handy 2nd place as Ben Willid is now going to round the final corner and wrap up a podium.
Now you see him putting the power down, coming out of the hairpin, and he will stand on that final podium spot. Looks like Jonathan Brooks right behind him in 4th, and Cedric O'Hayan rounding out that top 5.
Hearing that Dave O'Brien had another incident here late in the race, that is going to be gutting for him, because he was also in a good shout for taking a top 3 in this last race, but he'll have to settle for 8th and last on the lead lap, unfortunately. So I believe we are going to take a quick break. We are going to come back with the unofficial results as well as driver interviews, so stick around. Welcome back to Knockhill. Round 2 in the BiS F1600 Championship sees Stuart Ross go back-to-back. He won the feature, or the opening race, and he won the feature as well, even from the regrid in 10th position. Stephen Previan finished P2 behind him, climbing up from 8th himself. Ben Willid up from 7th to get a P3. Very good climb. Jonathan Brooks up 7 spots to get 4th, as Cedric O'Hyan probably limited the damage the most out of the drivers that started up at the front, from 2nd to 5th for him. Keith Lobbin was P6. And of course, Shane Vickery was 7th. Dave O'Brien, unfortunately, went from a potential podium to falling down the order and wound up in 8th. Steve Nagovin had to settle for 9th, a lap down, because he was involved on a wreck on the opening lap with Keenan Harris, who finished in 10th in that last one after getting a 2nd place in the first race. Graham Lobbin is going to wind up in 11th. And it looks like we do have Stuart Ross ready to talk to us here. So why don't we chat with the man that got both the wins tonight and see what he thought about this race. Stuart, amazing stuff. I think made even more incredible by the fact that you made 2 passes for the lead, overtaking 2 cars at once.
Thank you. It was tough, but I got lucky in some incidents ahead of me, I think.
Yeah, obviously that second one was a little bit more out of your hands and just kind of happened. You got handed it, but sometimes you got to take what you can get. This one seemed, we knew it was going to be a little bit chaotic at a track of this nature, but was it as wild as you expected, or was it just about kind of how you thought it'd go?
I think it was a lot more tame than I expected. I thought we were going to have crashes everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, we did see a few of them throughout the day, and thankfully we didn't have too many DNFs, which was good to see. But a few drivers certainly were caught out. How was the car feeling? Because it looked like it was relatively slippery with high temperatures.
Yeah, it gets, as the stint goes on, it gets pretty fun to drive, I think. But the car felt good, so finished well.
Indeed. So a little bit of a smaller group. Next time out, though, you won't have to worry about points, and thank goodness for that. We're going to Detroit. Have you raced at that track yet?
I don't think I've ever seen the track.
Ah, well, go watch some IndyCar races. Let me just say that. And it's very punishing. It's definitely one of the roughest street courses and bumpiest street courses you're going to come across. And I would recommend starting practice now.
Yeah, sounds like a good plan.
Well, again, congratulations on 2 wins, and looking forward to getting to chat with you in the future.
Yeah, thank you.
So that was our winner in both races, Stuart Ross. Doesn't look like we've found any others, unfortunately. So I think we're just going to have to close it up for today. And of course, we want to give a big thank you to the community for bringing us on for this season of coverage, along with the thanks to the team, Daniel, Joey, Dougie, and Zippy. Make sure to check out our social media, our website, and our merchandise store. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss a moment here on GSRC. Like we said, the next race is Detroit, but it's a special event, so no points are going to be on order for that one. And that'll be Monday, May 8th at 8 p.m. Eastern. Be sure to check out our other broadcasts that we have listed here, because up next, the Porsche Owners Club goes to Long Beach, another street circuit, and that'll be at 11 p.m. Eastern. But until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.